Okay, we're going to talk a little bit today about different types of images that you find in graphics on the computer. One of them is a vector image and the other one is a bitmap. Another word for bitmaps is raster graphics as well. So bitmap and raster both mean the same thing, but vector is a different type of image. We're going to watch a little bit of this video right here, and then we're going to stop and talk about a couple of things. And if you're watching this video, then whenever I stop the video, that's a good time for you to go to your graphic organizer and start typing your things in there.
Hello, and welcome to the Vector versus Bitmap lesson. You are watching a Small Dog Creative video. This lesson is a part of the Graphic Design 101 series. This video was designed to clear up confusion about the differences between bitmap and vector files. Let's start with the more common of the two, bitmap images. If we zoom in on this bitmap, we see that bitmaps are composed of pixels, and each one of those pixels contains information about one color. So what are bitmap images?
Okay, take a look at that image. What do you see? Pixels. What are pixels? Just little tiny squares. How many colors did they say could be in one square?
1,000.
One color. It's one. All right. One, yeah, just a little off. All right. One color per square. How many of you have ever used like graph paper and you color in the squares and make a design on it? Okay. That's pixels. Now, are they nice, smooth, rounded edges, or are they kind of squared? They're squared. Okay. Now, if you make them small enough, then they're less squared and more rounded. For example, how many of you have a camera on your phone? Do you know how many megapixels your camera is?
A lot.
A lot, okay. So the higher the megapixels on your camera, the better the quality of your photographs because the pixels are smaller. Okay, let's move on here.
Hello, and welcome to the Vector versus Bitmap lesson.
Okay, well, we're going to go back here where we were. Sorry about that. I didn't mean for it to stop the video.
We see that bitmaps are composed of pixels, and each one of those pixels contains information about one color. So what are bitmap images? As we discussed, bitmap images are pixel-based. Bitmap images can be scaled down, but not up. Bitmap images are also known as raster graphics. Common bitmap files include JPEG, BMP, PNG, TIFF, and GIF files. Bitmap images are much more common than vectors. Bitmaps are typically easy to recognize as photos and sometimes illustrations.
Okay, let's take a look at some of these. It says that it's pixel-based, and you can scale it down, but not up. What happens when you take a bitmap or a raster graphic image and you scale it up? What happens to it? It gets blurry. What do we call that term? Have you heard? It has the word pixel in it. It gets pixelated. Okay, that's where that term comes from. All right. If something pixelates, it means you make it so big that you can actually see the definition of the pixels around it. That's how many of you saw the movie Pixel?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Yeah, it was an okay movie. I didn't enjoy it, but whatever. All right, let's see. Again, they can also be called raster graphics. These are the common types of files, and they are definitely the more common of the two. They're more common than vectors, and you'll see them in photographs and sometimes in illustrations. Let's take a look for just a second. You have a graphic organizer that looks like this. I'm going to remind you that when you insert your text box in here, I'm going to remind you that you need to go back to your home button, and you need to, or after you put your text box in here, you need, whoops, I didn't like that. There we go. Where's my text box? Why is it doing that? All right, well, we're going to do this one more time. We're going to insert a text box. I'm going to drag it right here. There we go. And when you have that text box and you're going to be typing in there, please remember to change your font color to black, because for some reason it defaults to white all the time. And then you can't see white on the white paper. So then you can drag your text box in here. And, oops, we don't want to do that. If you move your circles or whatever, just move them back. Where did my text box go? It's behind the box, isn't it? No, it's not. Okay, anyway. So again, I'm just going to tell you, remember to change your font color to black inside that text box so you can read it, and then just type your information in here. Now, just so you know, at the bottom of this, there is a completed graphic organizer that you can look at after the video if you want to. So let's just continue on with the
Let's
video.
take a look at a few bitmap images. As you can see, bitmaps are typically photos or complex illustrations. Now let's take a closer look at vector images. When we zoom in on a vector image, we don't find pixels.
All right, look at the edges of that one. Are they smooth or pixelated? It looks like a line, right? All right, they're going to tell you why those images are more smooth than a
We find
bitmap.
perfect lines and curves. Why is this the case? Vector images are based on mathematical equations that set out instructions to connect points, lines, curves, and to fill in shapes. What else should you know about vector images? As we discussed, vector images are based on mathematical equations. Vector images are also scalable to absolutely any size. Common vector file types include EPS, PDF, AI, SVG, and WMF files. Vectors are fairly rare, and the most common place you see them is in illustrations and logo.
Okay, so vector images then are based on math, right? So when you have an equation in math, let's see, 2x plus 3y equals 15. Okay, if that's your equation, no matter what x or what y you put in there, it's still going to be proportional, right? And you can, outside of that mathematical equation, you could double that equation and you're still going to come up with the same shape, line, graph, whatever it is, right?
Yes.
Okay, so then a vector image, because it is based on math, you can make it as big as you want to or as small as you want to, and it's still going to retain its shape exactly as it is in the original equation. These are the types of files that there are. They are rare. They are in illustrations and logos. One of the complications for vector images is that the software is more expensive if you're going to be creating those. There are conversion sites out there where you can go to it and you can put your bitmap in and change it to a vector, or change your vector back to a bitmap. You can do those, and there are a few free sites like that, but the software, if you're designing like logos for businesses, like you're in advertising or something, that software can be very expensive.
Let's take a look at a few examples. As you can see, all of these images have a smooth, clean look that can help us distinguish them from bitmap images. Because vector images provide such flexibility, logo files are almost always vector-based. Vector-based logos allow us to easily drop in different colored backgrounds, or to scale them down or up to any size. Now let's take another look at bitmap and vector file types, because this can be a little bit confusing. If you have a JPEG, BMP, PNG, TIFF, or GIF file, you have a bitmap image inside that file. If a vector image is saved as one of these file types, it has been converted or rasterized to a bitmap image. This, however, is not the case with vector files. If you have an EPS, PDF, AI, SVG, or WMF file, you may still have a bitmap image stored in that file. This is because these file types can contain both types of information. It's also important to note that while you can convert vector files to bitmap files, it's much more challenging to convert a bitmap to a vector.
Okay, it's easy to convert a vector to a bitmap because you're stepping down in quality. But it's much more complicated if you're trying to take that bitmap or raster graphic and make it a vector, because you have to have more expensive software and the process just takes longer.
This requires special software and usually some file cleanup. Thank you for watching the vector versus bitmap lesson.
All right. Why do you think that we need to use vector images if you're, say, in advertising and you're creating a logo? Why would a vector image be better? So it looks clean. Why? Do what?
When you're looking at something far away, like on
Okay.
the highway or whatever.
Okay. So, how many of you have seen the Nike symbol? How many of you have seen the Nike symbol maybe on a pencil or a pen? A tiny little one.
Oh, I've seen it.
Okay? And you see them on your shoes. How many of you have seen them on the side of a bus or a billboard where they're huge?
I've seen them on a box before too.
And okay, but you see that Nike symbol, all different sizes, right?
Yes.
And it never looks any different than the actual Nike symbol because it's a vector image. Okay, at the bottom of this, there is a completed graphic organizer here. One thing I want you to pay really close attention to is the definition for vector graphic. It says it's based on mathematical equations because all they told you was that part, but they didn't put in the part on the list that they gave you that connect points, lines, and curves. I want you to make sure that you put that part in the image too. All right. Now, you can create your graphic organizer after you watch the video. You can do it during your video. It does not matter to me. But again, you have your PowerPoint that looks like this. Insert your information in there. You can type it and dump it in there from some other way if you need to. But make sure that you insert your text box, change your font color to black, and type your information in there and complete that and turn that in. After you finish this, there is a quiz for you to take. I sent you a different email that has that quiz link in it. And yes, you can use the graphic organizer on your quiz. Are there any questions before we shut this one down? All right, then we are done with this one.